traffic.
I don't know what I'm looking at. That's not.
Which one are you looking for? This one off of Eastern. Are you looking for the one up by,
Alpha H.
yeah, Oak Hills?
Yeah.
It's a separate one out there.
Different pile. This one's not going to help me because I've been pushing.
Well, it's good getting.
And if I could have everybody's attention real quick for just a second. I know we've got a big group. If you're going to speak tonight, especially, we had a sign-up sheet outside. Please sign in because we have to transcribe the minutes and we need names to do that. We also had some plats out there. Also, if you're interested in updates in case a date changes for any of these cases, if you put an email that's legible on the sign-up sheet, if something changes, we will try to send out emails to you, letting you know that a date has changed. Or you're also welcome to call the Planning and Zoning Office at any time. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Tuesday, January 4th, 2022 meeting. A few housekeeping rules, please. Tonight we will hear 7 cases. We will first have a staff report to summarize each case prior to any discussion the board members may have. We will then ask the applicant to step up to the podium to ask or answer any questions. We ask the applicant to begin by stating their name and address for the record, as these meetings are recorded. We will then ask for any public participation and again ask any participant to begin by stating their name and address. And please remember, the topic of discussion needs to remain pertinent to the case being heard. The purpose of the Planning and Zoning Board is to hear the cases and make recommendations to the Clay County Commission. The Commission will review and decide the cases heard tonight on January 19th, 2022 at 2 p.m. in this room. Could we begin tonight with a roll call of attendance, please?
Yes, Chairman. Terry Griffin.
Present.
David Rodas.
Present.
Chris Higgins.
Present.
Brad Scarlett. Marvin Davis. And Chairman Tom Decker.
Present. And could we have a motion to approve the minutes of our December 7th, 2021 meeting?
Motion approved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Could I have a roll call vote?
David Rodas.
Approved.
Terry Griffin.
Approved.
Chris Higgins.
Abstain.
Brad Scarlett. And Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve.
Motion carries.
The first case we will hear tonight is case number January 22-101RZ/F. And could we have a staff report, please?
Chairman, I would like to add this staff report to official record.
So be it.
My name is Shane Spees, and I am the planner here at Clay County Planning and Zoning. This case we have tonight is it's a request from the applicants Jason and Virginia Massengill, and they're requesting rezoning approval from ag zone land to R1 for lots 1 and then R5 for lots 2 and 3. This is a replat of a subdivision, Snedlin, and that was approved in 2003. The property is approximately located at 30624 Northeast 174th Street with roughly 25 acres. This property also falls under the rural low density tier of the 2008 comprehensive plan, which that recommends a 5-acre plus lot. This is also within a mile of the city limit of Lawson, and that is just north of the subject property. Ray County is directly east to the property. This rezoning application was properly noticed in the Courier Tribune on December 16th, and certified letters notifying adjacent property owners were sent out on December 17th. The applicants are proposing this subdivision because they are wanting to create 2 additional buildable lots. There's a house currently on Lot 1. They're wanting to create these 2 additional lots for their son and daughter to be able to build on. Let's see. They've gotten all the preliminary approvals from the necessary outside agencies such as Health, Highway, Water, and the Lawson Fire District. There also, so for Lot 1, you can kind of see, and I'll point this on right there at the corner. There was an existing house there, and it actually goes to the, I want to say it goes right to the front setback, which there was a variance in 2002 that changed it would be a 50-foot variance setback for the front setback, and then also a side setback, which is a 13-foot variance, which is for that barn right there. This was approved, a 4-0 vote in favor of the requested variances. This would allow placement of the existing house 0 feet from the front setback and allow placement of the barn 12 feet from the side property. There is a Union Pacific rail line right here. We did get an email from them. They indicated that they do not have any specific comments because the lots are large and should not increase any more vehicle traffic. Lot 2 has an existing pond here that has been inspected by the Natural Resources Conservation Service and is in good conditions. Their calculations show that a small dam breach equation will safely pass according to the NRCS report. There's also an existing utility easement that goes right through here. And as it's stated on the plat, and as from what I've seen out there, the overhead lines, it's electrical easement, the overhead lines are no longer there. So if the applicant would want to have that removed, that would be another application they would have to file with us. It would be another case. Let's see. This request, in staff's opinion, meets standards set forth by the Land Development Code in the 2008 Comprehensive Plan, and we believe that it should be approved, or that's what our recommendation is. The staff would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners might have, and the applicants are currently present.
All right, very well. Thank you, Shane. Do any board members have any questions for staff? Would the applicant please step up to the podium, state your name and address?
My name's Jason Massengale. My address is 30624 Northeast 174th Street, Lawson, Missouri, 64062.
All right. And Jason, do you have anything you'd like to present or add to support your application?
Not at this time, I don't.
Okay. And you understand the staff's report and good with it?
Yes.
All right. All right, thank you, sir. We'll do any board members have any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any member in the public that is here to support this application? Is there any member in the public here to oppose this application? no further discussion from the public or the board, I would call for a motion to decide this case.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Very well, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a roll call vote?
Chris Higgins,
Approved?
David Rotis, Terry Griffin,
Approve.
Brad Scarlett, and Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve.
Motion carries.
I think, Kip, we can go right into the final plat now, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I need the applicant back up, or?
No, nope, the final plat was included in the report that Shane gave.
No further discussion, I would call for a motion to decide the final plat with the conditions attached in Exhibit A.
I'll make the motion to approve with conditions.
Very well, do we have a second?
Second.
Very well, can we have a roll call vote?
Chris Higgins,
Approved with conditions.
David Rotis,
Approve with conditions.
Terry Griffin,
Approve with conditions.
Brad Scarlett,
Approve with conditions.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve with conditions.
Motion carries.
The next case we will hear this evening is case number January 22-102 RZ/P. And could we have a staff's report, please?
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So this is a rezoning and preliminary plat, so this land has not been platted before. I've got it pulled up on the screen. It's a large acreage off of northeastern Smithville Lake is just to the south, and the road basically dead ends into Corps of Engineers land. The proposal is to divide the one large parcel into three, similar to the same reason we subdivided the first one, which is to create a couple buildable lots up front for family members to build houses. It would be one house per parcel. Lot number 3 in the back is a 40-acre lot. Lot number 1 is roughly a 8-acre lot, and lot 2 is roughly a 7-acre lot. The 2 lots up front would be rezoned to R5, which is our current standard for lots between 5 and 10 acres. And then the large lot in the back, since it meets the 20-acre minimum for ag zoning, would be allowed to stay zoned agricultural. And since it does not have road frontage, it would be served by an ingress-egress easement that's shown here in blue. So it does have access. We will require that there be a shared recorded agreement between lot 2 and 3 for access and who maintains it and all of that good stuff. This is located in the natural resources tier, which guides us that a 5+ acre lot is okay or acceptable for this area. This case was also noticed in the Courier Tribune, and adjacent property owners were sent certified letters. It has the same 5 rezoning criteria that start on page 4 of the staff report, which review and decision-making bodies should consider those 5 criteria with any rezoning case. The applicant did receive all their outside agency approval, with one exception. The unique thing about this property and the properties around it is there is not water availability. So lot number 3 actually has a house on it. It was approved for well water. And the 2 lots to the north were also approved for well water. So you'll see after the final plat, we have a well water application as well. We'll talk about it in more detail, but basically the county code says if you want to use well water as for residential use, you have to be approved by the county commission, and it has to have unusual circumstances. Generally, the water district stating that they can't serve water is considered an unusual circumstance. So we talked about the shared driveway. There is some floodplain and a stream setback. The applicant has chose to put their ALP area within that area, so they basically just prohibits them from building in that area. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning and preliminary plat with the 2 conditions. First condition is just some changes to the plat, some minor changes, And the second condition is that recorded agreement that we talked about. I would be happy to answer any questions that commissioners may have, and then the applicant is present as well.
All right, very good, thank you, Kip.
Kip, how far was the rural water line?
It was, I believe, a quarter mile to the south of the property.
So, on the other side of the lake.
Yeah, so that presents a problem.
Do any other board members have questions for staff? So, would the applicant please step up to the podium, state your name and address?
We're Gene and Joe Holtgrew. We are on 19622 Northeastern Road, Trimble, Missouri.
All right, do you have anything that you'd like to present to support your application for the rezoning?
I think it's all included in the report.
All right. Good. Any board members have questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment and support the case we're hearing? Is there any member in the public that would like to comment and oppose the case before us? So, no further discussion. I would call for a motion to decide the rezoning of Windy Hill Farm.
Motion to approve.
Very well. Do you have a second?
Second.
Do you have a roll call vote?
Brad Scarlett.
Approve.
David Rotis.
Approve.
Terry Griffin.
Approve.
Chris Higgins.
Approved.
And Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve.
Motion carries.
Then we could move right into the preliminary plat. If we could have a motion to decide the preliminary plat of Windy Hill Farm with the conditions attached in Exhibit A.
Motion to approve the conditions.
Very well. Do you have a second?
Second.
Do you have a roll call vote?
Brad Scarlett.
Approve with conditions.
David Rotis.
Approve conditions.
Terry Griffin.
Approve with conditions.
Chris Higgins.
Approve with conditions.
And Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve with conditions.
Motion carries.
The next case we'll hear this evening is case number January 22-103F. And could we have a staff report?
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So this is the final plat for Windy Hill Farm. The review procedures and submittal content for a final plat must be in substantial compliance with the approved preliminary plat in accordance with the requirements under section 151-3.6D of the 2011 Land Development Code. Staff believes it meets that section of code and is recommending approval. You will see that we're recommending approval with the same two conditions in Exhibit A. This is basically just a redo of the previous plat, and the plats match. And I would be happy to answer any questions that the commissioners have, and the applicant is present.
All right, thank you, Kip. Do any board members have questions for staff? Would the applicant please come back up to the podium, state your name and address?
It's Gene and Joe Holtgrew on 19622 Northeastern Road, Trimble, Missouri.
All right, Mr. Holtgrew, do you have anything you'd like to add to support your application?
I don't, sir.
All right. Any board members have questions for applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public that's here this evening to support the case being heard? Is there any member of the public here to oppose the case being heard? With no further discussion, I would call for a motion to decide the final plat of Windy Hill Farm with the conditions attached in Exhibit A.
Motion to approve the conditions?
Very well. Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a roll call vote.
Brad Scarlett,
Approve with conditions?
David Rotis,
Approve with conditions.
Terry Griffin,
Approve with conditions?
Chris Higgins,
Approve with conditions.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve with conditions.
Motion carries.
The next case we'll hear this evening is case number January 22-104 GR. And could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So this is the request for well water as the sole water supply source for Gene and Joseph Holtgrew. This is just for lots 1 and 2. As I stated earlier, lot 3 has already been approved. There is one section of code, section 151-8.9, which says basically that you should be connected to the enclosed water supply system with an exception under section D for well water only under unusual circumstances as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission, Clay County Commission, and approved by Missouri Department of Resources. So Water District number 4 stated they do not currently have service available for this parcel, and the water main ends a quarter-mile south of this property. The 2 properties to the north, one here and one here, and as I stated, lot 3 have been approved for well water halfway recently. And you'll see that the one condition that we're putting in Exhibit A is that they get approval when they drill the wells from MDNR. So staff is recommending approval with that one condition, and I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners have, and the applicant is present.
All right, thank you, Kip. Do any board members have questions for staff? None, so would the applicant please step up to the podium, state your name and address?
It's Joe and Gene Holtgrew on 19622 Northeastern Road in Trimble, Missouri.
All right. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to support your application?
No, we're fine.
Because I would have a question for you, please. There's you said there's an active well on lot 3 at the present time.
Correct?
And is lot 1 and lot 2, are they going to share this same well, or lots 1 and 2 will drill
They
their
will
own
have
wells?
to have their own independent well.
So each lot will
lot.
have their own independent well.
Correct.
Very good. All right. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
I don't suppose there's any studies that show that there's water there, right?
Well, the lots just north of Lot 1, both of those have wells already in there. We've also talked to a well driller, and he's confident that there's sufficient water that can be accessed for those 2 lots. And Mark Finch was his name, if that makes any difference.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Chairman, may I add, I suppose if the wells did not pan out or was not good water, they would have to figure something else out, because one of our requirements to get a building permit, they're going to have to submit either the MDNR approval for the well, or they're going to have to show that they're connected to the water system. So
All
at
right.
some point, they would have to figure something out.
All right, very good. Is there anybody in the public here tonight in support of the case before us? None, so is there anyone in the public here that opposes the case before us? And I would call for a motion to decide the use of a water well at the
Before we make the motion, I just want to ask a quick question, Kip.
Yep.
So who's responsible? How do you control that if they go to sell these lots and they don't produce water in the well? I mean, who's going to be responsible? Because they're no longer owner if they sell the lot to somebody. And part of our code requires that utilities are provided to every lot. So are they going to drill the wells before they sell?
I can't, I don't have the answer to that. I don't have any requirements that they have to drill the well within a certain period of time. I suppose the commission could add a condition that would require that.
Well, the only concerns that I would have was that they would sell a lot that didn't produce water, and somebody's then stuck with a lot they cannot now sell or get a building permit on.
And that's a good thought. Just don't know that I can control that. That's kind of, to me, that's along the lines of, are you disclosing that something else isn't wrong with the property? But I think the only way I think to fix that would be to add a condition addressing that issue.
Would that not be up to the seller to disclose to
It should be, but
the sale of the property?
And wouldn't you have to have it, the water to be able to get the permit?
you have to have water to build a permit, but
That right there.
But what I'm saying is if they sell the property to somebody and saying they have a well permit, they go there and they drill and it's a dry hole, they can't get water. Now they've closed on the piece of property with no utilities.
That's,
Yeah. So that's on the buyer. I'm just asking your all's opinion, so.
I think that'd be the burden of the
overthinking it.
Yeah.
purchaser, yeah.
Well, I was just throwing it out there.
So, board have any other questions for staff or applicant? I'd call for a motion to decide the water well as sole source for the property.
Motion to approve.
Very well, do you have a second?
Second.
Do you have a roll call vote?
And Chairman, I didn't hear, who made the first and the second?
I made the first.
David? And who seconded?
Brad.
Second.
Thank you. David Rotis,
Approved.
Brad Scarlett,
Approved.
Terry Griffin,
Approve.
Chris Higgins,
Approved.
and Chairman Tom Decker.
Approved.
Motion carries.
All right, the next case we'll hear this evening is case number January 22-105RZ/P. And could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So this is a rezoning and preliminary plat for a subdivision called Luciana Point. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. This is the old Liberty Hills Golf Club off of H Highway and Stockdale Road. So there's a couple subdivisions in the area. So everything in yellow is the proposal except for this. So this is Liberty Hills that exists currently, a subdivision that I think was done in the 60s or 70s. And then Meadow Lake Estates is to the north. This is another plat of Liberty Hills. So there's several small lot subdivisions in this area. This proposal is to basically put two interior streets, both ending in a cul-de-sac, one here and one here off of Stockdale Road, and add 18 lots. The lots range anywhere in size from 5 acres to there's one over 20 acres. The request is from ag and R1 zoning to R5 zoning. R5 is our current zoning for lots that are 5 to 10 acres normally. Now, there's no cutoff on the size, so it can be 5 to 20. We chose not to rezone or keep the 20-acre lot zoned ag, or there's 1 or 2 10-acre lots. We chose not to zone those R1, which is our current zoning standard for lots between 10 and 20 acres, just to make this subdivision consistent throughout. So the proposal is for those 18 lots. This property is located in the rural low-density tier. So it is a little bit unique to see subdivisions like this Meadow Lake Estates or Liberty Hills in the rural low density tier, because that's typically not the tier that we see the development. Now, these were done years ago. And they do have a private sewer system. If I pan up, and somebody can correct me, well, if I can get the map to work. But somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the sewer system that serves the existing subdivisions out there now. The proposal for these 18 lots is not to be hooked up to that sewer system. It is for each lot to have its own septic system. To kind of give you the background, so this is a rezoning preliminary. So any subdivision with interior streets or infrastructure is going to have to go through the process twice. So to me, this first step, the rezoning and preliminary, is the county deciding, does this proposal with this density, these lot sizes in this specific area of the county, does it make sense? If this is approved, then the applicant would be responsible for submitting construction plans for streets, water lines, stormwater, and the county on-call engineer would review those, and we would circle back to all the outside agencies. So we talked to MoDOT, Highway Department, Water District, Health Department. All those folks would review those plans along with the county engineer. Then, once those are approved, the applicant would have to apply for a final plat, where we would have another set of public meetings. If that final plat's approved, then they put in the infrastructure. The county inspects the infrastructure, so does the water district, all those other agencies. Then once that's approved, that's when they could record their plat and start selling lots. So this has a bunch of different steps, and this is the first step in that process. Now, from a planning perspective, to me, it almost makes more sense to have a more dense development here and hook it on to the existing sewer system. Because if the proposal was to tie into that existing sewer system, the comp plan and the land development code, I believe, would allow much smaller lots, up to, lots like we see in Liberty Hills, which are an acre or a little bit bigger. But the applicant has chosen not to do that, and they may share some more information on why they chose not to do that. Now, I talked about the rural low-density tier. Like I said, typically we don't see these small lot subdivisions. What they're proposing with these 5 to 20 acre lots is more typical of what we see in this tier. So I think the proposal makes sense, because this isn't supposed to be a highly dense tier of the county. This case was also noticed in the Courier Tribune, and adjacent property owners were sent certified letters. It has the same 5 rezoning criteria which review and decision-making bodies should consider. Those are on page 5 of the staff report, and I am not going to go through the complete staff report. It's 19 pages long. I'm just kind of hitting some of the highlights. I want to hear questions from the commissioners, and also if there's input from the neighbors. We've had a little bit of input from neighbors, but not a whole lot on this case, so I'm interested to hear their thoughts as well as the applicant's thoughts. As part of this proposal, only 3 lots would have access off of H Highway. This lot right here, this one here, and then the one in the middle. All the other ones would either have access off of Stockdale Road, the new roads they're putting in, or there's 3 that would have access off of Betsy Ross, trying to limit the accesses on H Highway. MoDOT has given their approval. The Water District has indicated that they can provide water for this development. As I stated earlier, they will be included in the next step of this process as well. The Fire District initially did not give us comments, but they submitted a letter, I think it was yesterday, and Angie's going to pass that out. So we're going to talk about here in a minute, and we might as well talk about it now, but there's on page 9 of the staff report, it's section 151-8.3. There's a chart that shows what is required, and let me get there so everybody can see it. So there's an infrastructure chart that says what infrastructure you have to do, and it's based on your zoning. Thank you. So we're doing R5 zoning, which requires asphalt curb and gutter, hook up to the water district. Hydrants are required unless exempted, so this is what I want to talk about. In the comments from the fire district, they are basically saying they do not want this exemption to be met, and they want fire hydrants to be required. So, the Planning and Zoning Commission, North Canada Commission could change that, but our recommendation would be to go with the fire district comments and require hydrants. You can see in the R5 zoning, a septic system is allowed by this infrastructure chart. So that's kind of a basic of the infrastructure. We also included some additional details on the R5 zoning, which are on page 7 of the staff report, which just gives the basics of that zoning district. The applicant is including a 25-foot landscape buffering. Let me pull back up basically anywhere you see in green, that's a landscape buffering, but they put one along the Meadow Lake Estates lots, and then also along the outside of the Liberty Hills lots. It's a 25-foot buffer. Basically, would just keep somebody from building their house that close to the property line. We did not request any landscaping plans for these areas because honestly, these lots are much bigger than the surrounding lots. We typically wouldn't request landscaping plans or additional landscaping on a subdivision with 5+ acre lots. So we will also look at stormwater. That will be part of the construction plans. The Clay County Highway Administrator has determined that a traffic impact study will not be required as part of this subdivision. And staff is recommending approval of the rezoning and preliminary plat with the conditions you can see in Exhibit A. I do want to point a couple of those out because there are 14. And let me get the staff report back up here. So number 7, we talked about the driveway access. This talks about all lots with frontage on an interior street shall have access from that interior street and not H Highway or Stockdale. Just want to limit those accesses on the existing county roads. Number 8 talks about the HOA will be responsible for any maintenance and upkeep of any stormwater infrastructure, including but not limited to detention basins, street inlets, swales, and ponds. Number 11, so the applicant, I believe on this one, did provide a preliminary stormwater study. There are some smaller outfalls. Staff believes that each outfall should be addressed, whether that's with some grading, swales, something there to reduce the runoff at each outfall, no matter how small they are. So we added that condition. And I want to talk about number 13. We would like to require that the developer be responsible for paying for the county on-call engineer to have a third-party inspector on site when the infrastructure is installed to make sure that it's installed to county standards. That's not something that we've done in the past, but the highway department does not have the personnel to do those inspections any longer, so we added that condition as well. And like I stated, that by no means is that the entire report. That's just some of the highlights, and I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have, and the applicant is present as well.
All right, thank you, Kip. Do any board members have any questions for staff?
Just that the curbs and gutters on the street, are that just on the existing interior roads that they're putting in, not the existing highways, H and Stockyard?
Yes, sir, just on the streets they would be installing. And I guess I should have added the developer's responsible for the maintenance of those streets for 2 years, including snow removal, and then the county will inspect them after that 2-year period and accept them into our road system at that point if this is approved.
Are there any other questions from the board for staff? Would the applicant please step up to the podium and state your name and address?
Robert De La Fuente with Star Development, 244 West Mill, Liberty, Missouri.
Mr. De La Fuente, do you have anything you'd like to present to support your application?
No, I think Kip gave a pretty good summary. I'm here with Aaron Young, also with Star Development, and Art Aiken with AGC Engineers. Happy to answer questions and comments of the audience here, so I'll just step down and.
Does any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
I don't know, are you fine with the fire hydrants?
Yes,
that
so
they, wanted to add?
we got an email from the chief, Gene Walker, and he said as long as we install the same type of hydrants that were installed along H Highway with the upgrade of the water main, then he's fine, so, if that makes sense.
I think it's a nice laid out plan, but
Thank you.
I just want to make sure you were okay with the fire,
Yes,
because I think that's going to be a recommendation
yes.
that we might
No.
want to add.
We're good with all recommendations, but happy to answer any questions.
All right. Does any other board member have a question for applicant? All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment in support of the case before us? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment and oppose the case before us? Please step to the podium. Well, with no further discussion, does the board have any questions for applicant or staff?
Kip, do we need to amend that fire hydrant? Or is it okay the way it's written?
I think it's okay the way it is because that infrastructure chart says that hydrants are required unless exempted. So I think
Okay.
the change would need to be made if we're going to
If we're
exempt
going
them.
to change it, yeah.
Well, I think it's, in the Exhibit A, it's item 3, that water lines will be sized and constructed.
Right, just wanted to clarify that we were at it the right way.
If anything, if we're going to add something regarding the fire hydrants, that the water mains will be constructed to the specifications of the respective water district.
Yeah,
That can be addressed in the final plan.
yeah, that could be added, or yeah, staff could just change that if this gets approved and bring it back with the final plat. But we always include the water district and the fire district, and they all have to give approvals in the end on everything.
I'm good with that.
All right. Well, with no further discussion, I would call for a motion to decide the rezoning of Louisiana Point.
Motion to approve.
Very well, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Very well, could we have a roll call vote?
David Rodas.
Approved.
Chris Higgins.
Approved.
Terry Griffin.
Approve.
Brad Scarlett.
Approved.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Approved.
Motion carries.
I think we could go ahead and roll right into the preliminary plat. I think there's, what did you say, 14 items on the Exhibit A, and those can be amended before a final plat. So,
Yes, and I would expect some changes just after the review of the construction plans as well.
then I would call for a motion to decide the preliminary plat of Louisiana Point with the conditions in Exhibit A is attached as part of the motion.
Motion approved with conditions.
Very well, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Could we have a roll call vote?
David Rodas.
Approved with conditions.
Chris Higgins.
Approved with conditions.
Terry Griffin.
Approve with conditions.
Brad Scarlett.
Approved with conditions.
And Chairman Tom Decker.
Approved with conditions.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, the next case we'll hear this evening is January 22-106 RZ/P. And could we have a staff report?
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
And I apologize, my computer's not working properly, but I'll try to get through this the best I can. So I do have the property pulled up here. So this request includes these two lots right here. It's lots 8 and 9 of Burton Estates. There's an existing house currently on the property. And this request is to subdivide the land into 22 lots, including the lot with the house. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit because I want you to see Johnson Ridge subdivision. So this is northeastern, and the Johnson Ridge subdivision is just to the north. It's on a private sewer system, and we'll talk about lot sizes here as I go into the staff report a little bit more. But this request is to rezone to the RU25 zoning for lots 1 through 21. And then there's going to be a large, greater than 10-acre lot that would stay with the house. And that one would be zoned R1, which is our current zoning for 10 to 20 acres. The reason we're doing the RU25 zoning is that encompasses from 0.57 acres on, can you go make the name? 0.57 acres up to, basically, we wouldn't want it going any more than a couple acres, but kind of similar to the previous case where we want everything uniform and to be zoned the same zoning, even though a few of the lots could qualify for the next layer or the next rezoning up, basically. So this property is in a different tier of the county. It's in the urban services tier. That typically is the tier of the county that's closer to the cities and the area that we see development. So the urban services tier allows suburban density, which is moderate density development on municipal level services, which could be up to 4 units per acre. So we'll talk about density here a little bit later, but this basically says suburban density on municipal level services. So the question there is what's municipal level services? Staff's opinion, since they're hooking up, or the proposal is to connect to the existing sewer system, that the sewer meets the requirement for municipal level services, and all of the other outside agency approvals, water, Clay County Highway, Fire District, none of their comments have come back with any opposition to this case. So we believe it's consistent with the comprehensive plan because of the tier that it's located in. As I stated with the previous case, some of these interior street subdivisions with small lots don't make sense unless they're in the urban services tier. This case was also noticed in the Courier Tribune, and adjacent property owners were sent certified letters. It has the same 5 rezoning criteria, and I'll go to the staff report so you can see those. Has the same 5 rezoning criteria, which any rezoning, the review and decision-making bodies should consider those criteria. As I stated, Highway has given us comments, including there needs to be some brush removal to make sight distance better. They've indicated that traffic impact study is not required for this subdivision. Timber Creek is the sewer authority for the Johnson Ridge sewer system, and they've stated basically that if they add these additional 21 houses, they would still be at about half capacity, because when they built that sewer system, it was built to be, it wasn't up to capacity because there were phases of Johnson Ridge that never occurred. And they've also stated that even once they're at capacity, it was designed to expand as well. The Water District has stated that they can serve the lots. The developer will be responsible for extending the water main, and the Smithville Fire District sent comments basically stating they want hydrants, and their code calls for a distance of 500 feet between the hydrants, and they gave us a couple locations where they wanted to see the hydrants. Staff is recommending a 3rd hydrant to meet the county land development code requirements. We included some information on the RU25 zoning. This zoning typically is only applicable in the urban services tier because they are small lots. So we typically wouldn't recommend approval for this in any other tiers, but as I stated, this is located in the urban services tier. We have that same infrastructure chart that we talked about with the previous case. The RU zoning is applicable because that's the zoning district we're going for. The biggest change there is this does not give you a septic, give you the option of doing septic system. And as I stated, this proposal is to hook on to the existing sewer system with Johnson Ridge. You know, just kind of the same thing. There's a lot in the staff report. I'm not going to hit every single thing. I do want to point out, and this might be my biggest concern at this point with this proposal, is the applicant is proposing to redirect this stream that runs through the southeast corner to give them more room from that cul-de-sac that will go in here. The county does have a 75-foot stream setback. They will be within that setback. The code allows the planning and zoning manager to reduce that setback. If this preliminary and rezoning is approved, we will have to have them mark, you know, where they're going to move that stream and see the location of that cul-de-sac, and see if that's, you know, an option. That'll be something that we'll have to decide at that point. But that is a concern with this proposal at this point. They are having this be a stormwater detention area, this southeast corner. As with the previous case, this would go through the several different phases of this process, which would include the construction plan reviews. I do want to show the density chart on page 10. So we compared this to Johnson Ridge, basically. So if you include all of Johnson Ridge, it comes out to 2.2 acres, 2.8 acres per lot. If you do all of Eastern Estates, it comes out to 1.53 acres per lot. Now, Johnson Ridge has a large amount of open space. If you take out that open space, Johnson Ridge goes down to 1.15 if you just identify on each lot and you use the lot sizes. But if you include the open space, it's that 2.28. If we take out the large lot, actually no, this is if we take out the tract and we're basically just doing the Eastern Estates lot, then we get down to 1.31 acres per lot for Eastern Estates. And then if we take out lot 22, we get down to 0.79. So 22 is that large lot that would remain on septic system, and it kind of bumps up their numbers a little bit. So we just wanted to present the whole case. We did receive one letter of opposition to this case that was included in the staff report. We have been able to meet with some of the neighbors, but I'm interested in hearing what the neighbors have to say as well as the applicant. Staff is recommending approval based on the fact of all the information that's been provided to this point, including that this is located in the urban services tier, it's hooked up to the Johnson Ridge sewer system, items like that. But there are several conditions. It looks like there's 15 on this one. And then I do want to point out a couple of these. We added a condition requiring landscape buffering on the north and west property lines, requiring a landscaping plan submitted with the final plat, which would have to be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and County Commission. That's under number 1. And then number 4, that stream, they're going to have to get approval from the Corps of Engineers to relocate that stream, and then get Planning and Zoning Manager approval on reducing that stream setback. And then, similar to the previous case, we added the condition under number 13, which or actually, it's number 12. The third-party inspector, when the infrastructure is being put on there, that the developer will be responsible for reimbursing the county. And then number 14 is the HOA is responsible for the stormwater infrastructure. So I'm happy to answer any questions commissioners may have. Applicant is present. And like I said earlier, that's by no means the whole report, that's just some of the highlights.
All right, thank you, Kip. Any of the board members have questions for staff? No questions. Chris, I'm
Johnson
sorry.
Ridge have HOA dues to the sewer system there? Kip? Is there been any talks with that neighborhood?
That's a good question for the developer. I don't have that information. When it's public comment, we'll.
What was your question, Chris?
Just if there have been any talks with the folks at Johnson Ridge have an HOA, I do believe, and if they're paying for the sewer system over there, are they okay with adding to their sewer system?
We'll save that for the
Yeah,
applicant. Okay.
Yeah, I got a question on, so Kip, does the county feel that they have adequate water retention for that small a lot?
Well, so that's a good question. That will be studied at the construction plan phase. So I don't feel like I have all the information to answer that. There's a chance if they don't, that's why we have the on-call engineer review it. And if they don't have enough, then they will have to redo their plan because it won't meet the county requirements. So there's a chance of that happening, but it wouldn't happen until the next phase. And their engineer may want to address that tonight as well.
Well, the topo is in their favor to drain north and west into the detention pond.
Yeah, and Chairman, I didn't add, I should have, part of the staff report should have been that they have two stormwater areas, basically here, and then they're going to use the existing pond, which I believe, and I don't want to speak out of turn, they're going to have to do some work to that and enlarge this pond to catch, because pretty much my understanding is almost everything goes this way, and then everything here goes this way, except a small portion right here would go possibly across the street.
Do board members have any other questions for staff? If the applicant would please step up to the podium, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Richard Gherkin. I reside at 13300 Northeastern Avenue.
And Mr. Gherkin, do you have anything you'd like to present to support your application?
Well, the whole plan's been carefully developed. All the points have been addressed in the preliminary process to this point. We have the final outcome of this at utmost consideration. We consider these to be premium lots for the area and a premium contribution to the values of the homes. And I reside in the existing house there now, and I believe everything that we've got planned out here will work fine, including stormwater. So I think ACG Engineers has done a great job, and the staff has given us a very thorough report.
I think, Chris, you were inquiring about if.
I didn't know if you'd talked to have you talked to the Johnson Ridge HOAs and whatnot for attaching onto the sewer system that's existing there?
Well, I believe the Timber Creek sewer system is an independent operation, and they, in agreement with hooking up to them, it will require us to pay fees, but it'll be to the Timber Creek Sewer District who processes the sewage. So that's in the preliminary review. That's all worked out fine, and of course, that'll be subject to a final agreement.
So you haven't talked to Johnson Ridge?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Can,
He can talk in a minute, yeah.
okay.
Okay. That's all I have at the moment.
All right. Is there any other questions from the board for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment on support or contribute to the application, you're welcome to step up to the podium, please.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Rick Lutz. I live at 9310 North Evanston Avenue, Kansas City. I was a banker in Clay County for over 20 years. I've always been a little apprehensive about developers and their claims. I've known Richard for probably 30-plus years. I've been watching this project for a long time. I've been watching I wanted to make sure everything was in line, but I think it'd be a good subdivision. I personally would like to move there, and I'd like to have him for a neighbor, so that's all I want to say.
All right, very
Thank you.
good, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on support or contribute to the applicant?
Art Aiken, AGC Engineers, office at 405 South Leonard, Liberty, Missouri. And I heard, just wanted to respond on two questions to kind of follow up with Richard's comments. On the sewer system, we have spoken several times with Timber Creek Sewer District, who manages the sewer district and the plant and the lines to the plant. And they are actually welcoming our flow and would like to have our flow just from an economies of scale for that. With respect to the HOA, we did have a public meeting. Richard had a public meeting and invited the neighbors to that meeting a couple weeks ago, I believe. With respect to water retention, it is, I heard, 2/3 of the area goes to the existing pond on lot 22, and that's large enough to make any modifications there to that pond to offset any impact, increase in impact. The south third, we can capture all but maybe the southwest corner of lot 1 into that existing pond there. We've shown graphically there. As Kip said, we will have to provide the modeling, the numbers, and prove that our impact is less than what you have existing with the final design. And here for any other
I have a question for you, Art. Is the sanitaries, is this going to be a force main or a gravity flow? Or?
It'll be a grinder system,
So each,
which is what Johnson Ridge has now.
yeah. So each residence will have its own grinder?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Okay.
And that will ultimately be turned over to Timber Creek?
Timber Creek, yes, and they will manage that.
All right. Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to comment and support the application before us?
Yes. Hello, I'm Charles Gherkin. I live at 7332 Northeastern Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri. My wife and I are both interested in building a home up here and look forward to it if it's approved.
Very well. Thank you, sir. Yep. Is there anyone else that would, in the audience that would like to comment on supporting this application?
Vern Windsor, 506 North Point Avenue here in Liberty, Missouri. My wife and I have known Richard for a while, and when he brought this up, we thought that we would like to be part of that and move there. So we would like to see it approved.
All right. Thank you, sir. Yep. We're taking comments in support of the application. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Jim Rucker. I'm a real estate broker, been in the real estate business in some way, form, or fashion for about 50 years. I've known Richard for pretty close to those number of years. I can stand before you and tell you safely that everything I've known about Richard has always been first class. He lives in the home that he's going to build these lots around. So I doubt very seriously if he's going to put something up that doesn't meet his eye in the morning when he wakes up and in the evening when he goes to bed. So the quality will be there. Just a short note here. In the real estate business, whether you're aware or not, we have got a significant shortage of homes in this market right here, right now. In Clay County alone, we are looking at less than 1 month inventory for homes. All price ranges, less than 1 month. The Economic Development Council most recently put out a publication that said that they are currently have underway 11 million square feet of roof that is going to house new commercial industrial development in Clay County. It's projected that those developments are going to generate another 6,000 jobs to our county. We have less than 1 month inventory for homes to respond to those who already live in the county, who want to move up or down or sideways. And then we've got 6,000 new jobs coming to Clay County. I just would advocate a development like this and the one that you looked at prior, because that will help us with our inventory shortages that we have. Highly recommend that you approve this development.
All right.
Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to comment on support this application? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on opposing this application?
Yes, I would.
And could you please state your name and address?
Yes. My name is Mary Stevenson. My name is Mary Stevenson. I am the owner of a property at 13315 Northeastern, a 50-acre tract of land directly east and across the road from the property you are considering. We are the next-door neighbors to what is identified as Eastern Estates. As such, we speak as the ones most directly affected by the changes that may result from your deliberations. As a family of 6, we moved to Eastern Road in 1969. It was a rural area, open space, large tracts of land, and enjoyable country living. But changes came as we knew they would. So with much planning, discussions, meetings involving many people, the Eastern Corridor has developed as we now know it. Cary Hills, Valley Brook, Johnson Ridge, they're all careful, comfortably sized residential areas of rural character, nearby companions to the farms, small hobby ones, as well as quite large ones. Now comes a rezoning request to allow a creation of RU-25 residential urban large lot district consisting of 21 lots on 33 acres. The title for this district strikes me as ironic, since the practical effect would be to create individual lots smaller than any others in this area, little more than a half acre compared to the size of the 3-acre size held to be desirable in Clay County's comprehensive plan, or the 1 to 5 acre lots in the nearby established districts. The possible results, as I look at this, is 21 lots with streets, sidewalks, houses, families, adults and children, their pets, a couple of cars, but maybe 3, perhaps a storage shed in the back, and a boat or a cycle just alongside. In short, I see a lot of activity, constricted area, and causing problems in devaluating my property. After the obviously density issues here is the watershed control. 21 roofs, roads, driveways, sidewalks mean a lot of runoff. Runoff that will flow into the creek that bisects my property and will be a big headache. Retention pools, their size and their future maintenance is a concern, as are the questions of environmental impact from sewage disposal and the maintenance of these treatment facilities. Finally, I urge you to consider the impact of this development on the traffic and safety. Eastern is a busy street, much of it without regard for posted speed limit. with lots of lake traffic. I want to read that sentence again. Eastern is a busy street with increasing business and lake traffic, much of it without regard to the speed limits that are posted. The intersections with 132nd and at 291 Highway are hazardous. As Eastern Estates matures, the increasing business, personal, and even more school bus traffic will mean new burdens for our first responders. These are just some of the concerns and the reasons for that we think this rezoning preliminary plat should be denied. Perhaps the developer can return with a plan that is more in tune with the environment alongside this established community. Thank you for listening.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to take this off so you can hear me. Stephen Walcott. My address is 13524 Clementine Hills. I'm north of 132nd off of Mount Olivet. But I'm here tonight in regard to Mr. DaCosta. And when you look at the subdivision there that's proposed, and you see that house that's directly to the west, that's my client's house. If you will note, all the lots in the subdivision of Burton Estates were all basically 10-acre lots. When my prior client that owned the same house that has now left the area and sold to Mr. Costa, we were here about, I think, 10 years ago before this commission. This commission denied, for the same reasons we're asking to deny tonight, this particular proposal. You look at all the development around that area that would be impacted, particularly, again, the rest of the subdivision there on 132nd Street. We've already heard from Mary Stevenson that lives directly across, and several of the other large acreage properties that live in that area. I would like to offer into evidence tonight what Mary Stevenson just testified to. I also have a letter from Jay and Shirley Lowry. They couldn't be here. They're in Texas. They live at 13117 Northeastern and have since 2004. I would also like to submit a letter of opposition, which I believe has about 40 signatures of people in the area. If I can submit those, how do you submit it over here to the your staff?
Yeah, you can get staff, please.
Yeah, and we'll just take this all as Exhibit B.
All right. Now, we're having the same discussion tonight that we were having about 10 years ago about the county's comprehensive plan, specifically your 2008 comprehensive plan. And if you look at that, it says that the land use tier policy is to protect future environmental and economic health of Clay County. The tier concept is important to conserve agricultural uses, open space, rural lands, as well as future development opportunities. It also says, and this is your comprehensive plan, directing growth to urban growth areas reduces the stress and overall public services and road maintenance responsibilities. Now, as you know, I mean, this is at the northwest corner of 132nd and Eastern. You're approximately 1 mile, at least, from Kansas City, Missouri. One of the concepts that was discussed, at least when we were looking at the comprehensive plan, was the concept that what will these cities be looking at for future development if they decide to expand or annex in those areas? What are they going to want? Are they going to want these large 10-acre lots? Or are they going to want a subdivision that looks similar to Kansas City, Missouri subdivisions? Well, so I looked into that. I've had some recent rezoning issues with Kansas City, Missouri, so I've been dealing with planning and zoning. There are no holding ordinances that Kansas City, Missouri currently has that talks about any annexation in this area. I also discussed that with planning and zoning. Do they have anything on their long-term plans, anything? No, they don't. So whatever you approve, recommend to the county, and the county commission approves at this point, is probably what we're going to have. Now, as an attorney, and by the way, that address is 204 East Kansas, Suite A in Liberty. I represented some water districts and home developments over in Platte County before Parkville finally annexed them many years ago. I also represented one up in Clinton County. These private sewer districts can be a real problem. The companies that are operating them are trying to do a good job, but they also need to make a profit. Repair doesn't get done as well, maintenance is a problem, and then you have a major problem. You have to replace a pump. You have to replace something else. Well, that's a special assessment for the neighborhood. Sometimes that's hard to do for some of these developments. It's not like the city of Kansas City or Liberty that can issue a bond issue to pay for these large developments. This is basically coming out of the individual owner's properties. I would ask you to consider to deny this. This issue of the stream that Ms. Stevenson mentioned, that was something that came up last time. That was a concern. I question whether they've talked to the other sewer district or not. Where's the easements? How do the people in that subdivision feel about this? Now, I understand that if I was going to operate a sewer system, the more people I had in the system, probably, I can make more money. I understand that. That makes sense. I understand if I'm a real estate agent, I would love an opportunity to have more areas to sell land. Sure, I have no problem with that. For those people that have indicated an interest in possibly living there, good for them. But there's a lot of other development going on in this county. There's a lot of development going in the Kansas City, Missouri area. And I would suggest that based upon the county's comprehensive plan, and when you look at the colored areas around there, there's still a lot of green. There's a lot of areas that are 5 acres or more in that area. And we would ask you to please preserve that at this time for those people that moved into that area within recently, like my client, or those that moved in a long time ago, expected it to be rural. They moved out of the city for a reason, and now the city is basically coming to them if you approve this kind of development. So we would ask this commission to seriously look at those issues, consider the wishes of all the people that I'm sure are going to testify tonight, and we would ask you to deny this, this application.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chairman, just to let you know, Angie's making copies of that exhibit, and she'll be passing them out as soon as they're ready.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I don't know if that might be a bit to digest.
It is, but I want each commissioner to have it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Bronco Veselick. I live at 7012 Northeast 134th Street in Johnson Ridge. I'm the president of the HOA, so representing myself, but also the board of directors of the HOA. So we reviewed the proposed rezoning request and would request that the following issues be addressed prior to any kind of approval in order to maintain our property values as well as any impacts, financial impacts to our HOA. The density of the lots, again, similar to what was commented before, we feel like it's a little loose compared to our existing subdivision. While we are on 1 acre lots, because of all the common property, it gives the appearance of much larger lots, which this proposal does not. The specific and detailed plans regarding the landscaping between Johnson Ridge and the proposed subdivision, again, we would expect or hope that there is some sort of plan that could be reviewed to ensure that there is a nice separation between the two. The comments about Timber Creek and the maintenance facility, my understanding as the president is that that facility is actually within the Johnson Ridge subdivision land, right? And we pay basically the insurance, cover the insurance costs from an HOA perspective. So anything dealing with that maintenance facility would impact our HOA dues, right? The question was, do we have dues? We have an annual due of $400 per household that goes towards all of the HOA type of things, maintenance of the electrical, insurance costs, all those types of things. This plan doesn't cover that in any way to address the fact that we, Johnson Ridge, would be covering the insurance costs associated with anybody going to that facility. The facility is basically that white building in the upper corner, right? And so anyone doing maintenance as they're traversing Johnson Ridge, our subdivision's liable. And our insurance costs would then have to cover anything, and we would oppose this proposal, given that, you know, our costs could go up from an insurance perspective because of that. In terms of the actual use of the Timber Creek sewers, I can tell you that, yes, there was a meeting invitation that was sent out to our subdivision. It happened to fall on that night when we had all the storms, so I don't know that a whole lot of people could attend. I certainly could not. My concern with, and our HOA's concern around the subdivision usage would be, if we do increase the amount of sewage going into that facility, as Mr. Walcott mentioned, there's going to be a quicker deterioration of the actual pumps and everything associated with it. So that will mean that any maintenance costs, and today we pay basically, I think it's $33 a month is what Timber Creek charges, at least me. I don't know if that is the case. If those pumps go out, I would anticipate that will increase. But no one's factored that into the equation, right? I don't want to pay for the fact that more sewage going into a facility that is very comfortable today is going to deteriorate that much sooner. The water pressure, although the Water District did approve or recommend, I can tell you that the water pressure in the area is terrible. We have lots of complaints within the subdivision, and we have complained numerous times about water pressure to the Water District. When a majority of the homes in our subdivision have water sprinklers, and when those are running, the water pressure is not sufficient. And adding 21 more houses, is going to just decrease that, and so that would need to be addressed. And then finally, just in terms of the detailed plans regarding the subdivision covenants, I know that hasn't been discussed, but you know, in order to make, if you were to grant approval, we would have requested the covenants be similar to ours, right? From a standpoint of house sizes, fencing, landscaping, you know, prohibition of things like propane tanks, large satellite antennas, prohibition of running a commercial business, limits on the types of numbers of pets, and then any limits on like parking of RVs, boats, travel trailers, and those types of things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sorry. My name is Claude Miller and my wife Cynthia. We live at 13023 Northeastern Avenue. And I'm going to speak from my mind and my heart because I don't have notes. I can tell you right now, if you put that many people on Northeastern, it takes us 10 minutes to get out on Cookingham now. It's going to take a lot longer than that, and you're going to have a lot of accidents. You really are. It's a safety violation. And the second thing is, we owned a home in Weatherby Lake. We sold it so we could live out in the country peacefully and live the rest of our lives. The letter you have is from my wife's mother and father, 95, 97 years old. And they lived there for a long time. We lived there 2 years after them. We ask that you do not approve this. Across the street from us this year, you approved 2 3-acre lots, and they built 2 new houses. And that's fine. We have no problem with that. But a little over a half an acre for a yard, I don't want to sell them a lawnmower because they couldn't use it. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yes, sir, thank you.
My name is Cheryl Cash. I live at 6624 Northeast 134th Street in Johnson Ridge. Now, we've been there over a year. I'm a tax accountant, okay? I'm not an attorney or any of those kind of things. So it's basically what I want to say is that there's a couple of concerns about the drainage, which I think that has come up and been discussed. But the biggest thing is what we did. We lived in the heart of Kansas City, for the last 26 years, and it was time for us to move. And that's what we were looking for. We weren't looking for a small, little, close-knit, everybody on top of each other place. We were looking for some room, but still have neighbors. And so putting this this subdivision in, I think is going to be more and more crowded, and it may even start another deal where other people want to, now the other people are going to want to start cutting and building closer. So anyway, that's just my opinion. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
My name is Kevin Colvin. I live at 6810 Northeast 134th Terrace, Smithville, also in the Johnson Rib subdivision. My concern as a homeowner in that subdivision is the care and the quality of the homes that's going to be established in that area. I don't want it affecting our property values. A lot of people spend a lot of money to live in that subdivision, and we've looked at Connex boxes, sheds, things that are just unbecoming of a close-knit subdivision like that. So we'd have concerns based on future building requirements in that subdivision as shared with Bronco earlier.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you have something new to add, we don't need to keep talking about the same
I do.
topics.
I'm
Yes,
Don
sir.
Zeller. I live at 132nd Street, on 132nd Street, just to the east of this.
Yes, sir.
My concern is, one, the traffic getting on to 291 as well as 92. There's a flashing light up there, and if you're lucky, the cars coming east and west are traveling at the right speed, because if they're slow and you trust that light at 92nd Street, they're on top of you, okay? Because it's based on going 55 miles an hour. The other concern I have is Smithville's Fire Department being able to service this area, okay? Just to the east on 132nd Street, a house burned a few years back. By the time the fire department got there, the house was a complete loss. The only thing that saved the houses next to them were they were far enough apart. If you have the same type of fire in this subdivision, you'll lose at least 2 houses, if not 3, okay? That's a big concern. And that was on a beautiful night. I'd hate to see it if it was snow covered, okay? You're too far away from Smithville, okay? The third thing is, right across from me is a plot of land, 132 acres, already plotted at 3 acres apiece. Fits the mold. If this passes, that is owned by an LLC. Are you ready to allow this size lots on 132 acres? It could be owned by a woman. If she comes in and requests it and you deny it, but you approve this one, you have a lawsuit on your hands for discrimination. You're setting a precedent. Like the gentleman down here said, we tried this 10 years ago. I have nothing against you developing the land, but this size lot is not the area for it. You want this size lot, go down to Eastern and 291. There's a nice tract of land for sale there inside the city limits that they would love for you to build that many houses in that area. This is not the spot for it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And I'm starting to get offended they don't clap for me, Tom.
My name is Margie Richards. We live at 7610 Northeast 132nd Street. My sentiments are following everyone else who's been opposing this, but I do want to get my voice heard. We've lived at and raised our family at 7610 Northeast 132nd Street for 33 years. We've seen a great deal of development in the area and progress, all on 3 and 5 acre lots. We've been happy with the way Clay County has progressed so far. However, this is a big difference in what we've seen in the area. We feel this development with 20-plus additional houses is much smaller lots. It will add to the traffic and the safety and congestion of our family and our neighbors. The traffic is incredibly a problem right now as is. I've been involved in accidents on 132nd Street. Family members have, neighbors obviously have. School buses have been involved in accidents on 92 Highway at it's WHB Road at that end. This is a very nice country atmosphere that we live in right now. We enjoy baling our hay. We fish in our fishing ponds. We have cattle and horses, a big country garden. All of that kind of stuff is why we chose to live in the country, not within any city limits. We don't have a paved road. We have chip and seal, and oil. And that is all part of the country atmosphere that we're willing to accept to live in the country, and that's where we want to stay.
All right, thank you.
All right, I am Vlad Da Costa, 6818 Northeast 132nd Street. And here I have my two daughters. I would like also to add something different to what you've been hearing so far. Come on in, girls. So I came from Iowa looking for a wonderful, easygoing, peaceful countryside living. And I thought I had found the perfect home where I could retire and live until I die, and they would inherit my girls here. And what I see about this rezoning, if approved, is that we'll have Mac mansions right there, exactly where I ran from in the city in Iowa. Mac mansions, which means, oversized house, undersized lots, and that would be a bunch of cookie cutter homes. Adding a lot of removing. So I would have a city next to my fence, the city that I ran from. So my girls would finish my statement that I think would be very useful to the committee. Thank you. This is Emilia. We live in the same address. Go ahead, sweetie.
Hello, this is my talk against the rezoning. The reason I am against the rezoning are because I would miss the privacy, my daily jogs with my papa, and it is very peaceful. I would also miss the beautiful views of nature I share with my family. And if the houses are built, it will affect natural habitats of the many types of animals we see around our house. Thank you. Sincerely, Amelia DaCosta.
I would like to point out, gentlemen, go ahead, the clapping. I would like to point out that those lots will be 0.6 acres. This is a suburban lot, right? Mr. Kip right there was adding the extra green area that is in front of Mr. Richards' home, but when you look at per lot, it's 0.6. That's suburban lot. So it will be a suburban area next to my countryside below the home. Here's my next daughter who will add some more insights.
Hello, my name is Isabella DaCosta, and I'm 11 years old. My family and I recently moved here from Iowa about 7 months ago. We're the next-door neighbors of Mr. Richard Gherkin. The reason we chose the house with the number 6818 was because we saw something that was beautiful and unique, something that shows the beauty and the kindness of our Creator. The first time I saw our new home, I thought to myself, I wish we never had to move. There are no houses nearby, which probably means I'll be lonely. But I cannot express how much peace and serenity that came into my soul as I walked through the property, the silence, the nature, the flowers, and not to mention the love of my family. I also must include the fact that I used to have bad allergies due to the dust and pollen in the air during the summer. My eyes would get really red and irritated and itchy so bad that I wished I could sleep all day.
In the city.
But after spending a few weeks at 6818, my allergies lessened and finally went away for good, and I could finally enjoy the rest of my summer without allergies. So if you approve the rezoning, all of this will be taken away from my family, my neighbors, and all of the wildlife too. Thank you.
Please do not approve the rezoning. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to the case before us?
Hi, I'm Lisa Stevens. I live at 13315 Northeastern Avenue. I am directly across the street. I am living in my mother-in-law's house across the street from Mr. Gherkin. We run cattle. We have cattle, we have dogs, animals. I've lost a lot of animals on that road. He wants to move part of his creek. That creek runs right through my property. I rely on that creek for my animals. for the wildlife in that area. I don't mind him building houses, but let it fit into our area. Thank you.
Right. Yes, ma'am, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to the case before us?
James Johnson, 13203 Northeastern Avenue. I live right across the street from Eric Gherkin's project. I was here back in 2010, and the zoning board denied his request to put the houses in that he's asking for now. And I am objecting to having all these houses put in for traffic reasons and also for, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. If anyone else has anything new they would like to add in opposition, you're welcome to step forward. All right. Does the board have any questions, or would the applicant like to respond to any of the comments that you've heard this evening? You're welcome to. Yes, I'd be glad to. All right. State your name and address, please, sir.
Yes, hello again. I'm Richard Gherkin at 13300 Northeastern Avenue. And welcome all my neighbors. Thank you for coming out tonight. We had a neighborhood meeting a few weeks ago to address some of these concerns. I too have one of the larger investments in that whole area. It's very important that we maintain the values of our property, the harmony of our peaceful enjoyment of our living, and we've considered that very carefully in the development of this project. The main concern is, well, one concern I hear is the privacy, peaceful enjoyment of your property now, and really placing these homes and putting these lots in will not affect our neighbors. They'll have the enjoyment of their property as it exists now. We're not taking anything away from them. The price points on this property will pretty much exceed most of the neighboring homes. I think will be a great contribution to the values in the area. And the concerns about the stream that's raised, it's actually a very small, minuscule portion. It meets a minimum, might have to refer to Art, but the Corps of Engineers, it's like the most minimum requirement approval, so it's very minor disruption. The water will be well taken care of. It won't be an issue on the stormwater. We're not really exceeding any kind of minimum requirements there. We're meeting and exceeding the minimum requirements. And they're right, the Eastern Avenue is a busy road. 21 lots, that's not make or break to the whole area. You'd have to put a moratorium on any kind of development out there if you were to restrict this development to having access to Eastern Avenue. So all my neighbors, I value you as people. I've invited you to my neighborhood parties. I still want to be friends with all of you. I've reached out and will continue to do so. I think this will be a benefit to all of us in the long run, and I look forward to more enjoyment with each one of you. And I'm glad to have you as my neighbor, and I recognize your concern, but the homes with the 50-foot landscape buffer, you won't even see the houses. So we're going to be very, very adamant about maintaining privacy. And same thing in my own house. I've got quite a significant investment in that property, and I too want to enjoy my section of that area and let the others around me also have their area and the privacy of use. So I think that's the major points. So anybody have questions for me, I'll be glad to address them. Oh, I do think, by the way, the prior application that was referred to in 2010, I actually don't remember the time frame, but 2010, that sounds about right. We did get this approved. It was approved. The only reason we didn't move forward with it, I think it was actually before 2010, but the economy just went flat. And these, as you know, these approvals are only good for a year, 18 months, something like that. And the economy was flat and we just couldn't move forward with it. We got an extension on that same approval and just the timing wasn't right. So here I am back in front of you again with a compliant application. The design has been created using all the development guidelines, and it is a compliant project. And ultimately, it should be approved because it meets all the minimum requirements or meets or exceeds all the requirements. So I would think we'd all benefit from moving forward, and anybody has concerns, I'll certainly address them in the final plat of the project. So,
All right.
thank you.
Staff, does the board have any questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, very well, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Is, can we,
I just want to say one more thing.
Just a second, please.
That was the applicant's chance to rebut the comments, and now it's to the commission to ask questions if they have any.
Okay. But I do have something else to say.
does any board members have any questions for the applicant or questions for staff? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I think we've heard a lot of good and a lot of positive and a lot of not so positive, and I might consider to our other board members to maybe table this application at the time being. We've got a lot of information, this Exhibit B that was passed out just momentarily ago with a lot of signatures, and give us a little time to review the recent information, and it's just my thought would be to table it and give the board and the staff an opportunity to review. So I would call for a motion to table the rezoning of Eastern Estates until our next regular meeting.
And just to make sure I'm clear, are you calling for a motion or are you making a motion?
I'm calling for a motion
Okay.
to table continue the case of the rezoning for Eastern Estates to our next meeting. Motion dies.
There's no motions, then call for a motion to approve or deny.
Okay. Then I would call for a motion for decision on the rezoning of Eastern Estates.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Very well, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Could I have a roll call vote?
Brad Scarlett,
Deny.
Chris Higgins,
Deny.
Terry Griffin,
Deny.
David Rodas,
Deny.
and Chairman Tom Decker.
Deny.
Motion carries.
Now, is there a need to move on to preliminary plat?
Yeah, so since we're your recommendation body, we should make a vote on the preliminary plat as well.
All right.
Now, yes.
All right. We'll move right into the preliminary plat of Eastern Estates. If I would call for a motion for decision on the preliminary plat with the exhibits attached in the Exhibit A.
Motion to deny.
Very well. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote.
Brad Scarlett,
Deny.
Chris Higgins,
Denied.
Terry Griffin,
Deny.
David Rotis,
Deny.
and Chairman Tom Decker.
Deny.
Motion carries. And can I ask, if you're leaving, please don't stand outside the door. If you need to talk, go down a level, please. Thank you.
The next case we'll hear this evening is case number January 22-107 RZP. And I would ask for a staff report, please.
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So this again is an interior street of subdivision request for, it's a rezoning and preliminary plat and would follow through the same process as the two previous cases would go through. This one is located at the northwest corner of 124th Street and A Highway. Bedford Downs subdivision is located to the west. This request is to subdivide this approximately 46 acres into 10 lots. 5 of those would be accessed through the Bedford's Downs subdivision. This street, which dead ends right here, basically at the property line, would be extended, a cul-de-sac would be extended into here. 5 of the lots would have access there. There would be 5 additional lots that would have access off of A Highway and 124th. There is an existing home on the property. This access off A Highway is the only one that would be allowed off A Highway. They would either have a shared driveway for 2 lots that sit right here, or this lot could have an access off 124th Street. Total of 10 lots, like I said. They range in size from 3.5 to 7.5 acres, and 12 acres of the property would be located in a preservation easement. This property too is located in the urban services tier, which we talked about a little bit with the last case. Its intent is to promote urban development compatible with long-range growth plans of adjoining cities. It does require, or does allow suburban density suburban density, which is moderate density development on municipal level services up to 4 acres. I'm gonna pull up the plat since my map isn't working so well. But the difference between this project and the one we just discussed is the lot sizes. These are bigger lots. You can see the 5 off the cul-de-sac and then the 5 here. But the proposal is to put these on septic systems because there is not an enclosed sewer in this area. So if we go back to that infrastructure chart, and I'm going to throw myself under the bus. So you have a paragraph. Well, let me get there so I can try to explain this the best I can. So we're talking about the infrastructure chart again. And the request is for the RU zoning because we have some lots that are less than 5 acres. We're going to be consistent with the zoning again and do all one zoning. But in the RU zoning, it does not give us the option. It says central gravity system or package plant, and then has this little number 3 under there, where if you go down here to number 3, it says as approved, required by the decision-making body. So initially, I thought that would give the decision-making body a little leeway to allow septics, but after reviewing that a little bit longer, I believe a variance would be required from this section of code to put septics on these lots. Now, it's not just that easy as well, because the health department, our code says you need 5 acres to have a septic on that infrastructure. The health department says anything above 3 acres is okay. And then this one has a third layer because it has lots that are less than 5 acres, and there's 7, if you have 7 or more lots and some of them are 5 acres, you also have to get approval from Missouri Department of Natural Resources. So that was a new one on me. We've never gone through that before, but both the health department and MDNR have to approve these septic systems. The health department has given their approval. We are still waiting on MDNR approval. That's one of the conditions, but I screwed this up. So if you vote to approve this, I would recommend adding a condition that says a variance is needed to meet section 151-8.3, which would allow the septic on less than 5 acres.
Kip, would that be conditioned on the national, or Missouri Department of Natural Resources approving first?
Say that again, Brad.
Do they need to approve that first before the variance could go through?
Well, I don't think so, because every indication from MDNR is that they're just waiting on one report and then they're going to approve this. So I don't think they're going to hold this up. If I was to write that condition, I would put that the variance must be approved before they submit their final plat. It would give them a little time, but would require it to be done before we get too far in the process, because there would be specific criteria that they will have to show they meet to get that variance.
Okay.
And did I answer your question?
Yes.
So this case, again, I'm not going to go into great details. Another was noticed in the Courier Tribune, and the certified letters were sent, has the same rezoning criteria. Unique thing about this case is it's within a mile of Kansas City. They've stated they have no position on this issue. The property is not in an area that the city has any plans for annexation. As far as other outside agency approval, the Water District has stated that they can serve these lots. They will also be included with the construction review plans. MoDOT has not submitted any opposition just because we're not adding any driveways off of a highway. Kearney Fire District had a conversation with them. They were not opposed to it. They, once again, would be included in the construction plan review. And then we talked about MDNR and the health department approvals. The land development code talks about a minimum water line size for development within this tier. So the urban services tier requires a minimum 8-inch water line, which you can see on page 9 of the staff report. There are exemptions to that. It's my understanding that there's a 6-inch line in this area, not an 8-inch line. Now, as I stated, the Water District has said they can serve these lots, but the county code says you need an 8-inch line. So we need to look at page 10, where it talks about meeting one of those exemptions. And there's 2 steps to meeting this exemption. Basically, we need a written deal from the Water District that says they're not going to put in a 8-inch water line in that area within 5 years. I'm assuming we can probably get that. And basically, the boards that hear this case, so you and the county commission, need to decide that this is not going to pose any threat to life or property. Obviously, the Water District does not think this is going to reduce the water system. So you see on page 10, there's 2 sets of criteria that would have to be met. So we included that as one of the conditions as well. And that was a first one for us too. Then on page 11, the no traffic study was required for this by the highway administrator. There is a stream on the property. If I go back to the aerial, there's a stream that runs right through these properties. We would have that 75-foot setback, but I think most of that lies within the preservation easement. We provided a chart that has some density of some surrounding subdivisions. This one is larger than the lots that are in Bedford Downs. These lots end up being 2 to 3 acres, most of them. The average, if we average everything in Eagle View, it's 4.65 acres. Now, on this one, staff is recommending denial, and there's 2 reasons for that. One is we don't have the variance for putting septics on less than 5 acres by the county code. So that one could be taken care of if that condition is added and they get that variance. The other one is section 151-3.3F2, which is those rezoning criteria that we talk about with any case. So that's on page 5, and it states whether or not the proposed amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the stated purpose and intent of section 151-1.7. So the reason we quoted that one is anytime somebody comes to us and wants to subdivide land, we look at the comp plan. Now, the comp plan is more of a guide than a written rule. You can't get a variance from the comp plan. There's gray areas in the comp plan. But the comp plan in this area, in the urban services tier, talks about if you're subdividing, you need to do 10 plus acres, or basically you need to do a full-on subdivision. This is kind of a hybrid of the two, with the one exception to that 10-acre minimum is if the city within a mile grants an exemption, in this case Kansas City, if they would specifically say that the 3.5-acre lot that we're talking about, or the 3.5-acre lots that we're talking about, fits within their annexation plans, then this would not be an issue. But the applicant was not able to get that written comment from Kansas City. I think our initial meetings, they thought they would be able to get that. Staff from the start recommended 5 acres, 5+ acres to meet the septic requirement, and we wanted that comment from Kansas City. If those 2 things had happened, we'd be recommending most likely approval on this report. So that's the reason for the denial. I think the applicant was aware of that. There wasn't a huge surprise to them, but I don't want to speak for them. We have a bunch of conditions on this case as well. It mirrors the previous 2 cases, with the exception that I would want you to add the variance if you vote to approve, and we want to meet that exemption for the water line size. So with that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you all have, and the applicant is present as well. Oh, and Angie just reminded me, we got submitted some letters of opposition after the staff report went out, so she's going to hand those out. That'll be Exhibit B.
I have a question for you on Bedford Downs, where they're coming in through. How are they handling their sewer?
Those are on septic systems. So those are really small lots on septics.
In both Plat 1 and 2?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Kip. Does any other board member have questions for staff? Would the applicant please step up to the podium, state your name and address?
Hello, Mr. Chairman. How you doing, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Steve Warder, 6127 Northwest Pine Ridge Circle, Parkville, Missouri, 64152. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owner, John Finch, and developer, and also with me is Charles Small, the real estate agent for the property. if you have questions with that. A few things here that I guess I had some different approaches, and then we started talking about zoning adjustments, so I'm kind of a little bit which way we're going. But let me just go through this, and then we can hopefully talk this out and get this resolved tonight. Kip made a good points on the density. I think a few things I wanted to hit real quickly on this. He was talking about driveways on 124th Street. Highway Department asked us for locations of where to put those driveways because of topography. There is another exhibit that we had that I've given to the Highway Department, and we would put the restrictions on those, the first two lots going in there, on where those driveways could be accessed, just from a safety standpoint. And the MoDOT, as far as the access that exists now, they're okay with that, and we're not adding any more accesses to Highway A for MoDOT. Stormwater, we've done a report on that, kind of melts in with the stream buffer and the preservation easement. The stream buffer is all well within the preservation easement that is shown in the back of those lots. I have another little exhibit if you want to see it, but that's, yeah, we're back there 75 foot from the front of that. We tried to get the preservation easement up to some of the code requirements that are in another level of the zoning, so that we have that. We are preserving that. We're preserving 20 feet along the westerly property line between us and our neighbors to the west. Also, the water mains. There is a 6-inch water main that comes up to the cul-de-sac area that will extend. There's existing water for the rest of it. Talking with the water district, I've been asking them some questions. I've told them about this exemption, and I believe they're going to be working on that. But I did ask them when they modeled it what kind of pressure they had, and they said they're going to have 70 PSI in that area. So if you get 70 pounds of pressure in that area, that's pretty good compared to one that I argued about or discussed about 3 years ago when I came through here. So we know where that's at. It also comes down to the sanitary sewer. Obviously, with our smaller lots, we're not supposed to necessarily use septic. So we've gone through, and we're into the 4th or 5th phase it is of getting this approval. First off, we went out on the property, did our own third-party geomorphology report. And because the concern, obviously, with the sewers, not only does the septic system work now, but if you have to replace it in the future. Each one of these lots, we located 2 locations that were far enough away to have the septic system go in there. The report came back that it was less than 3 acres or less would be adequate for the storm sewer on that. After we had that geomorphology report, we sent it to the Clay County Health Department and had your people there at the health department look at it. They concurred, 3 acres or less, and they approved it, and they gave an approval. With those approvals, and you have another request through Missouri Department of Natural Resources, where you get 2 things there. You get a geohydraulic report that has to go before it goes to another guy at MDNR. Well, that geohydraulic report or hydrology report came back and said that they would allow 0.92 acre size lots based on what they came up with the soils that were there.
So 0.92?
Yeah, just under an acre. Just under an acre. And then the gentleman, Mr. Chuck Harwood, that's down there that I work with, that's the main one there at MDNR that does that. I got that report to him, I think last Thursday or Friday, but that's what he was waiting for. His comment in the email was, I was hoping that's what it would say. I tried to get him to get it done by today, but that didn't happen. But I anticipate the MDNR acceptance of the 3 acres or less to be in the next week as far as getting that report. I'm comfortable that that will be there. Then, obviously, as you can tell, we've gone through 4 layers or so of this review and report on that. So I guess this comes down to if you were in favor of it, and I think from the density and everything else, we're probably there. It's just a matter of the septic system and whether we get that, if it's a zoning adjustment like Kip had mentioned tonight, or some other mechanism to get to that point. But I think we're at least close to that point. And if you go forward with the recommendations that, or conditions that Kip had, and I guess if you had the zoning one, that's what we'll do, and that's what we'll go through. But we were in favor of all those conditions if you continue us on to that level.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Does any board member have questions for the applicant?
I got one, just, why not just, you got enough land, why not just do 5-acre lots? Or at least meet the minimum and not have to jump through the extra hoops? Because personally, I don't think that we should have to listen to Kansas City. I mean, we have our county regulations here is 5-acre minimum lots. You know, now, that's in our comprehensive plan. If we change it, I'm more to back down to 3 acres if we change it down to 3 acres. However, I just don't see that happening in our rural counties areas here. If you were bordering against, say, Liberty or Smithville or Kearney, I think that makes sense to go to 3-acre lots. But I don't think this is in that area. And if we're going to try to preserve our county into smaller lots, and it's just a question, I'm just asking.
Okay, well,
you know, why didn't you just go ahead and go to the 5-acre lots when you were designing it?
Well, one, honestly, is economics as far as doing it. There's also the fact that to the west, those lots are 2 acres or less on septic. And I think it just fits into the neighborhood with the piece of property that is there. And that's basically why we went that. I think when I first started off, I was thinking 3 acres because it was Clay County when we were laying all this out, and not the health department, not the zoning, and then the zoning came up. And Kansas City, Missouri, I talked to them. I do a lot of work there too, as far as from engineering and presenting stuff. And their planning people, basically, they came back in the email saying, we don't make any comments on that or anything like that. And I know a few of them pretty well and consider a couple of them friends, and they wouldn't even respond to it. They just,
well, and I know, Steve, you brought several things through here, and I mean, you obviously know what our zoning requirements are.
Sure.
So I just was curious why we didn't go ahead and try to meet those the first go-around. And then we'd probably be jumping through these hoops with DNR and all that other stuff. We're good to go.
well, and the thing about it is with the layout and the 5 acres and the way the property's set, we're trying to put some on 124th Street and then try and do the cul-de-sac. Well, if 124th Street, unless they get real wide, and you may get down to 2, you'd be eliminating maybe more than just, say, 1 to get your 5-acre deal. If you moved them back deeper, then the cul-de-sac
I was looking at it here while you were
cul-de-sac
talking.
doesn't work.
I think you're going to lose one lot,
you're going to lose 1, maybe 2, and possibly 2.
possibly 2, depending on how you design it. Yeah.
Because if you come in the cul-de-sac and you come there and you look at the lots on the south, if you make those other ones big enough, then you probably lose 2 because you're only going to end up with 2 on 124th Street. And obviously, the cul-de-sac lot's going to be a lot more desirable than it is going to be on 124th Street.
No,
So it would probably be 2 instead of just losing 1, so.
I think you could get by with just losing 1. You'd have to play with it a little bit, but I think you could get it in there.
Well, this is about version number 27.
That was my only comments, so.
Have y'all, I don't know if there's an HOA for Bedford Downs, if you've approached them about traversing through their development to access the majority of yours, or?
Well, it's county road, it's public road, so we didn't address that.
I do have one more on the water line. Tom, you're the expert on water lines there. I mean, are they seeing, I mean, it sounds like there's enough pressure there that they won't ever expand that water line to an 8-inch line, but would it not be something that if they were just, because they're only extending the depth of the cul-de-sac there, right?
Yeah, we're talking.
So, I mean, why wouldn't you just go ahead and put it to 8-inch right there and be done with it? You're talking minimal dollars in upsizing it to, I know it doesn't gain you anything, but it also takes that out of the plate too, off the table.
Well, I mean, if the water district would accept the 8, I don't have any problem doing that, but I'm not sure they're gonna want to do
And
an 8.
Tom can answer that better than I do.
If there's already a 6-inch with 70 PSI, I don't know if that's residual or static at the Bedford Downs, that's
more than sufficient.
3.5 times DNR.
That's what I figured. I just was
DNR
curious.
minimum.
No more than there was. I didn't know if there was an issue of cost there.
It'd be up to the water district. Fire protection, or a true fire hydrant would be questionable, but it's not really part of the approval process. So fire hydrants aren't. And if the district's telling you what accurate information, then you're way exceed DNR minimum requirements.
Good enough for me.
Good for you.
Do any of the board members have questions for the applicant? Now this,
Want to say anything? You want to add
Steve, you mentioned you've got these soil morphologies that have been submitted to the state. Is that to the DNR? Is that correct?
Correct. In fact, I've got a copy of one of them with me, and I can
Have
send
these
it over to Kip.
reports been made available to staff?
Yes, the first two were done, and Kip has got that one there. Did I send that to you last week, Kip, or was that just today?
My brain's mush. I have no idea.
Okay. But
That's
here-
pretty fresh off the press.
Are we needing,
Yeah, I mean, if I got it in an email, I was trying to get it to them right away,
Okay.
so.
And-
And a county approval was back 2 or 3 weeks ago, as far as the health department approval.
Yeah, we did receive the health department approval quite a while ago. Really, the magic wand we're looking for is that approval from Chuck Harwood at MDNR, and that's because they're the expert on all these morphologies. It's mumbo jumbo to me.
You're expecting that next week, you said?
Within a week, I would think, I sent it to him, got it on the 29th, and I forwarded it to him then, and then, of course, you got New Year's and all that, so, but he did respond, and I've got emails I can forward to you if you wanted to, but he did respond, that that's what he was hoping for as far as doing that, so.
And we've got that as a condition that it must be submitted before they submit their final plat.
Okay,
Right,
okay,
correct, yeah, that's one.
all right. Thank you. Does anyone else have questions for applicant? All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment and support the application before us?
My name is Charles Small. My address is 249 West Kansas Street, Liberty, Missouri. And just a couple of clarifying questions that may help. Bedford Downs does not have an active HOA. To my knowledge, I recently sold a house, the second one in on the left as you're going north off 124th, and there was no HOA involved in that. So to our knowledge, there's no active HOA or anything of that nature. And then the other thing I think I would just bring up is Mr. Finch, the property owner, I've worked with him for a couple years on his entire parcel. And if you go out to the larger scale, originally this was an 80-acre tract. And when he first engaged me to try to help him figure it out, there's an acreage that's to the north of this creek that was originally his up to about 2 years ago that now belongs to Mr. Chancellor, Chris Chancellor, who purchased 30 acres. And so when we were discussing this as a total, it just made a lot more sense to that area to the north. Access off a highway was going to be very difficult. There's no adjoining public improvements such as a road at 125th that is existing on this parcel. And so the north piece of this, we sold off all as one tract without bringing it in as far as some sort of development, with the idea that this fit the proposal that we have now. Actually, we were even going to go an additional lot of 11 lots and have cut it back to 10, thinking that, okay, trying to meet all the sewer requirements and everything between the health department and the county's code, and with Steve's help, we got to where we are now. So we've cut one lot out of there, but we thought that still, even if we would have had 11, we thought that would be congruent and contiguous with Bedford Downs and anything that is along there, and it'd still be bigger than that. And we thought that was an appropriate development. So we kind of took a long-range plan, say, take the north and don't try to do this with the stream, with a highway, with no improvements to the north, no public street improvements. Economically, it's just been impossible to do on top of that, and utilize the lower piece of this where there's 3 sides of public improved street already, add 1 cul-de-sac, and you can have some really nice appropriate sized lots. So unless there's other questions, that may give a little background as to how we got to from a big development to 11 to now 10.
All right. Board have any other questions for Mr. Small? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. I'll give that applause to Kip before I say it.
Thank you, I need it.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment in support of the
Are there any questions for me?
case being heard? If you'd like to speak in support of the case, you're welcome to it, sir.
Okay, yeah, my name's John Finch. I bought it 45 years ago, got out of college, getting closer to the end than the beginning, and it's just kind of a nice way for me to sell the land. So, that's all I know.
All right, very well, thank you, sir.
Okay, any questions? I mean,
Board have any questions for Mr. Finch? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment on any opposition to the case before us?
Do we need to make any amendments or anything, or are we good the way we are? Okay.
So my recommendation would be, and if,
Would they like to withdraw for this month, Kip, and get their stuff situated? Or do you want to?
you could do that. You could continue the case to a future meeting and allow them to go to the BZA first, or you could add a condition requiring it to be before the final plat is submitted. If you allow them to go to the BZA first and continue the case, then that would possibly take care of the MDNR issue as well in that time period.
I don't see any reason to.
And going to the BZA is
I don't see any
based
reason
on
to
lot
continue.
size and septic.
The variance request would just be to allow the septic on less than 5 acres. The lot size, as we've discussed, we've had a lot of this here recently where we've had a lot of people request smaller lots than what the comp plan calls for. The comp plan is a guide, and the decision-making bodies have some leniency there to approve something that's not within that comp plan, if you feel it meets all the criteria.
I think what we were asking is if we did approve a condition, what do we need to add to the conditions for?
Do we add the condition about the DNR approval?
The DNR approval is there. I would request that if you approve, you add a condition that states that they must receive a variance to section 151-8.3 before they submit a final plat.
From the BZA, from the,
Yes, the variance request would be from the BZA, yes. So they would have to submit an application, go in front of that board, and be approved for that variance request.
and we've already got the DNR septic is in the attachment.
I don't,
DNR's approval.
no, we don't have DNRs. Well, the requirement of DNR approving it is condition number 14, I think.
Oh, so it's basically in there.
It's already in there. You would not have to add that
Yeah.
one.
It's just the one condition that we need to add if we approve it with conditions.
Just for the variance.
Yeah, number 14 is the DNR approval.
Say what, Brad?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with the 5 acres, but
Yeah. There's
I'm not in.
I know.
10 lots and 7 of them are 3.5 or less than 5.
That's a nice looking
Right.
project.
It's a nice project. I'm not saying it's not at all. It's laid out pretty decent. It just
Yeah.
would like to have seen it met the requirements a little closer than having 3 or 4 lots at 3.5 acres. I mean, I know that's desirable, what a lot of people want to see. I mean, obviously Charles probably knows that as well. People, I get calls every day, I want 3 to 5 acre lots somewhere, and they're just not available.
No.
So the big thing would be to get a variance from the Board of Adjustment based on the septics on the 3.5 acre lots. Where
Yes.
the engineer of record, Mr. Warger, is already pursuing that with the DNR.
Correct, and
To
that's
get their
already a
density,
condition,
so.
yes.
And you're recommending Brad to make that another condition,
I would recommend that.
and then we could approve it and,
Take a vote at least.
yeah, all right. So, I'm thinking summary for one to add. Item 18 is that we want it to go before the Board of Zoning Adjustment or variance to have individual septics on less than 5-acre tracts. Make that a condition.
So we would need I think we would need a motion to add that condition.
All right. Brad, you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to add condition 18 for the variance. How does that need to be worded? I make the motion. I just need help with the wording.
I think that's good. Basically, it's, you're making a motion to require a variance to that 151-8.3 septic code.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Right.
making the motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Very well, to have a roll call vote.
Brad Scarlett,
Approve.
David Rotis,
Approved.
Terry Griffin,
Approve.
Chris Higgins,
Approved.
and Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve.
Motion carry, staff will add that condition.
Okay. Would the applicant, do you have any response to what we just voted on, or anything you'd like to add?
No, we're fine with that condition. We would like to have at least a decision made tonight, and the only reason for that is because we can't submit plans and final plats for 60 days after the final approval. So if
Yep.
we could have this as a final plat condition or something to that effect, then that helps
Yep.
us expedite, because otherwise we'll be into the summer before we
That's
get
what we're
these.
on track to do,
Right.
if Kip
Yeah,
can get
if we're in
the,
favor of that, we're fine with it. We'll move forward. I appreciate
all right.
your thought and consideration. So.
All right. Well, with no further discussion, I would call for a motion to decide on the rezoning of Eagleview as presented.
Motion to approve.
Very well, do we have a second?
Second.
Could I have a roll call vote?
Brad Scarlett,
Approve.
David Rotis,
Approved.
Terry Griffin,
Approve.
Chris Higgins,
Approved.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve.
Motion carries.
Okay, then we would roll right into a motion to decide the preliminary plat of Eagleview with the 18 items as an attachment listed in Exhibit A.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Very well, do you have a second?
Second.
Do you have a roll call vote?
Brad Scarlett,
Approve with conditions.
David Rotis,
Approved conditions.
Terry Griffin,
Approve with conditions.
Chris Higgins,
Approved with conditions.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Approve with conditions.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
And I just have a couple quick things, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So we did get a couple applications. It won't be anything like tonight, so hopefully a quicker meeting next month. And then the cases from last month, due to the holidays, they're not being heard until tomorrow at County Commission. So I'll give you an update next month on those cases.
All right. Call for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Very well. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Terry, do you remember that?
If we're gonna stick to our rules, let's stick to our rules.
That
You can vote on the variance committee.
Gertner, he said it was approved 10 years ago. You-